Welcome to the New Dentist Study Club podcast. My name is Dr. Sanj Mohanta. We're going to learn about clinical management, practice management, and the emotional management of dentistry. Let's learn how to be happier in dentistry. Let's go. Hello, everyone. Thank you so much for joining us again for another special episode. This time it's with my friend, Banga from WeCare Practice Advisors. And by the end of this episode, you're going to know everything you need to know about starting your own practice because Jazz has helped me start my own practice. So very grateful to you, Jazz, and welcome to the podcast.
Thank you for having me, Sandra. I'm really excited to finally join you on your platform and talk to your audience about the wonderful things that we're doing with you and the things that we can support with the dental community.
Thank you, Jazz. So tell us about yourself and tell us about WeCare.
So, a little bit of background on myself. Um, I am the vice president of consulting in real estate at WeCare Practice Advisors. We are a full service dental and healthcare specialized real estate advisory firm. So, we help doctors in all facets of real estate as it relates to their practice, from site selection, demographics, competition analysis, to formal lease negotiations, which start at the LOI, which we'll go into today, to consummating the final lease, as well as looking for properties to purchase. Some doctors are able to purchase property, and we assist with finding buildings, doing the underwriting. But in essence, we are full service real estate advisors.
And you have been very helpful to me. So I can't wait for you to share all your wisdom with the audience. Now, the first question I have for you is why even do a startup? Because I was at a new dentist, you know, transition symposium recently. An accountant went up there and he said, startups are suicide.
I
So what
beg
do
to
you think
differ.
about that?
I absolutely beg to differ.
Okay.
It's interesting. We're in this sort of interesting climate when it comes to real estate, practice acquisitions, practice appraisals, and it's been happening for a number of years. I call it the COVID effect. There's been this sort of double cohort, similar to when we had OAC in grade 12 and the pressure
Yes.
went university at that time. The similar thing is happening with dentistry, where there was a lot of doctors that, were forcibly on the sidelines when it came to startups or acquisitions. Everyone just kind of stayed at status quo. But what happened as a result, here in 2025 and going forward is there's a lot more demand for dental practices. And when the supply is the same and demand goes up, basic fundamental economics, prices go up. So, yes, acquisitions are wonderful if it's the right acquisition. But at the same token, some doctors are overpaying for the asset or they're just, essentially buying themselves a job and servicing the debt that they have and aren't truly profitable. They're just, carrying on and carrying on. Whereas I have doctors on the startup side that are doing the de novo. And yes, it is a struggle at the beginning. You're building a relationship with the community, you're building a brand, and you're learning how to operate a dental practice on your own, but you're doing it your way. You're not relying on past historical ways of things were done in the business. You're not relying on old staff and the relationship that they had with the previous doctor and systems. You're creating the systems. And frankly, I'm seeing far more greater success on the startup side than the acquisition side. So again, I disagree with that statement from the accountant.
Obviously, I disagree with it as well because I'm starting a practice from scratch instead of buying an existing practice for those reasons. Like, I want to do the type of dentistry I want with the materials and equipment, with the staff, at the exact location I want, with the branding that I want, with the name.
Yep.
So you can only do that with a startup.
Absolutely. And it's so important to realize that there's pros and cons on both sides. There's
Yes.
benefits and there's negatives. And from the startup side, as I mentioned, it is a tougher start. The first 3 years are very challenging, but I see things roll. And, I've been in the business of dentistry for 15 years now, on the dental real estate side for 10 years. So I have quite a bit of experience on sort of all facets, whether you're a startup, you're mid-career, or you're transitioning. And, in today's market, there's retail opportunities. There's opportunities to find, great rents. Landlords are super motivated to get dentists into their space. In fact,
Hmm.
we used to be the one calling landlords. Now they're calling us saying, "Hey, Jazz, hey, we care. We have space. Do you have a dentist that wants to join us? We would love that because you are the best tenant." And we
Yeah,
have to bring that into the negotiation and understand that as a fundamental foundation as we navigate the real estate world and these opportunities.
that's incredible that landlords are calling us because before is, as soon as a new retail development opened, the dentist would be the first person to call and ask for space. But now they're asking for us. So that's great.
Well, it depends where you are. If you're looking in Peel Region, Mississauga, you're looking in Brampton and Caledon, it is very high demand. But so are the acquisition side. So it's like, do
Yes.
you want to overpay? Like the practice is doing, 250 in EBITDA. Are you going to pay a 7 or 8 times multiple? Like, does it make sense to do that or take the risk and do a startup? And frankly speaking, the failure rate of startups is less than half of a half percent.
Wow.
So it's the default rate is really low. If you have a good location, you did your due diligence, you have a strong lease agreement, you understand the saturations of patients per practice, and as long as the numbers are right, I typically like to see 2,500 or more patients per office. You're in a good position to succeed. We're looking for high growth areas. We're looking for areas where there's new developments, master plan
Hmm.
communities, and that kind of falls into the foundation of myself and my partner JJ. We're real estate guys. We are come from pre-construction. JJ comes from private equity and real estate development. We understand real estate. I did a lot in the pre-construction world during COVID. That was, kind of a big thing in GTA. And those are the areas we want to target. The areas like Paris's Ontario, parts of London, the Boltons, the Orangevilles, the Niagara region. There was high growth and lots of homes that are coming, and now commercial is following. So it's a great
Hmm.
area to plant your seeds in that community and be the first dentist or one of the competing dentists in that community.
Oh, great. So for a new dentist who wants to do a startup, they call you. What is the first thing you're gonna ask them?
Why? Why?
Oh,
And
okay.
frankly, the answer is typically the same. I'm an associate in office or I work for a DSO and they're working me to my bone and I don't make business decisions and I'm at that point in my career where I want to be the business operator and owner. I don't want to clock
Yes.
in and clock out and have no equity built in the business. I want
Hmm.
to take on the management role and it is a whole other role. You're not just a dentist, you are
Yes.
a business operator and you have to put on and wear multiple hats, marketing, accounting, finance, HR, managing the
Sure.
office, relationships, staffing. These are all aspects that are involved, but it just makes the job that much more enjoyable. And you have to be a true leader.
Yes. Now, how about location? Because I heard a dentist go up to you at a recent event that you held and said, "Yep, I want to start my own office." And then JJ said, "Okay, where?" And he's like, "Anywhere in the greater Toronto area." It's like, what do you say to that?
You know what? That is often the case. You don't know what you
Okay.
don't know. And the
Okay.
mission is, and I like doing that. We take a we zoom out and we look
Yes.
wide. And I have an economics background, so I like to take a macro
Yeah.
approach first, and then we
Okay.
take a micro approach and start to dive into pockets and areas that suit the type of dentistry that you desire to perform for the community. There's also what type of community do you want to service? What type of patient pool do you expect? There's cultural backgrounds involved as well. There's,
Mhm.
age demographics that come into play as well. Like you wouldn't want to be a young dentist, 25 years old, opening up in Innisfil or Barrie, where it's, the average age is 55 plus. It just
Hmm.
it doesn't make sense. You want to be in more of a robust community, and those are all factors and variables involved. So once we start to narrow it down, we start to subject and find key pockets and then target those areas. And it may
Okay.
happen to find something right away, or it could be up to a year to find something.
Okay. So will you be in charge of finding out like which location would be best, depending on like, new subdivisions coming in, new developments, master plan communities, or will you ask them to do the research?
So everything is done in-house in our team.
Okay.
We have an in-house research team, in-house data team. We have an in-house we have in-house brokers, advisors. I'm typically involved overseeing our real estate division. So we're involved in finding, ideal locations based on data. We are data
Okay.
junkies. We love looking at the data. The data makes the difference. Where population trends are, where's growth happening, where are new subdivisions coming, where are major public transit routes coming for the future. In some cases, with the multi-practice owners that we work with, they're already looking 3 or 4 years ahead and they're looking to get a head start. So let's find, hey, where in Brantford is the next frontier? Where are they
Mhm.
building the next bus routes? We want to be along that. And then we look at zoning, we look at the planning applications. We're doing a full sort of we're lifting up the hood of the car and diving really deep into it and finding opportunities before they even get to market.
So you're looking at demographic reports as well, like
So
how
we're
many
doing
dentists are in the area, like what are
We're
the
doing a
age? Yeah.
competition analysis, so looking how many competing dentists based on the services that you offer. I say this to my colleagues and the dentists out there, if they don't exist on Google, they're not competition,
Okay.
right? They are not. So and when it comes to attracting new patients to your
Hmm.
practice, those are dynamics that we look at. We license lots of software to keep us ahead of the curve. And we're actually in the process of developing, we're very close to developing our own software that tracks competition, density, and demographics in kind of in a one shot, one sort of all packaged platform that gives you insight of what's ideal and where to put my practice based on the data.
Oh, great. I like that you help people find the ideal location where they can, where there's a huge base of patients who are going to be attracted to a new office.
Absolutely. Absolutely. It's the location is fundamentally important to the business.
Yes.
It's fundamentally important to your life, right? You don't want to be more than 30 minutes away from where you live or plan to live and where you
Yes.
want to raise your family and children. And you sort
Hmm.
of kind of have to reverse engineer things sometimes. Say, hey, this is
Yes.
the schools I want to put my kids in.
Yes.
Based on that, that will have an impact of where your practice location is. I have a
Okay.
doctor that has an office in Barrie, but he lives in Toronto. And the trek that he has to do just absolutely destroys him.
Oh,
In fact, he hired a driver. After a number of years, his practice started to do better. He's like, I'm hiring a driver, and he gets driven, and he's able to do work and his paperwork before he
oh,
gets.
that's great. Yeah.
Yeah,
And there was something that I didn't realize that, you helped me find a great location, and then, you know, we have to get an equipment specialist
yeah.
and to take a look to see if it's the, even though it was zoned for dental, and to see like, okay, do they have enough electricity, like enough amps going in to the unit? Is their sewage pipe big enough that, it can drain all the fluid? And I was like, I didn't know that. I had to look at all that. So tell
Well,
us
now you
more
do.
about,
That's the
yeah,
process. It's, when we're involved, it's a highly educational process. Like
yeah,
I like to have my clients aware of sort of all elements that are involved in the due diligence in advance of us putting an offer, right?
mhm,
So when we like a space, similar to your situation,
yes,
once we're like, okay, this makes sense demographically, location,
yes,
competition wise, okay,
mhm,
now let's take the next step and let's bring in the professionals. We
yes,
relied on some great contractors. We had Henry Schein come in and do, a floor
yes,
plan design to see how can we lay out this space.
yes,
And we actually took that plan to the landlord. So when we have competing interests in the space, we've already invested time and energy, and that landlord has now taken us and prioritized us over, they wanted to have like what was it, a competing daycare or, a
mhm.
child's gym there. But after seeing the diligence that we put and the effort we put, they see the value of, Sanj opening her practice out in Bolton.
Yeah, so for the audience, like once you find your location, that's why it's so important to work with someone like WeCare. Because if I found that location on my own, I would just looked at it and went, "Yeah, this sounds great.
I love it.
I'll
But
sign the lease." But with
and
you,
and
you
and
brought in, yeah,
it
you
becomes
brought in
expensive.
Henry Schein. Yeah, you brought in an equipment specialist from Henry Schein to do the measurements to see, can we even lay this out and do all the operatories you want? And you
Absolutely.
had a construction person come in and he was like looking around. I didn't even know what he was looking at, but just looking around to see, okay, can we drill into the floor? Can we put a chair here? Where is your like exhaust going to go into? It can't go into the daycare beside you. Like they were looking at all this stuff.
It's
So,
taking a holistic approach to the whole kind of
yes,
process of building a practice, right? It starts with grass level and it's the physical
yeah,
space. the physical infrastructure, the services, electrical,
Yes.
water lines, drainage, those are all elements that are critical to dentistry. On a, I mentioned to this to you earlier when we first engaged, on a per square footage basis,
Yes.
dentistry is the most expensive retail tenant to build out a business. It's, anywhere from 200 to 300 a square foot. In BC, we're getting quoted 4 to $500 a square foot. Across the country, it's very different. In the US, it's about 200 a square foot. I don't know if we've mentioned this to the audience. I'm based in Toronto, but I operate all over Canada as well as the US. In fact, the majority of our startups are in New York City, in the big
Wow.
bad Manhattan, where you're dealing with the best landlords ever. They're so fun to deal with. But we've made a good impact in that community, and we're doing the same thing here in Toronto and across the country. And the challenges are similar, but there's also differences in various markets. But it's a very expensive undertaking. So what I always say is do it once, do it right.
Yes.
If you build it wrong, it's going to cost you more in the long run, and you're going to hurt yourself. And you have to think long. Once you plant your seeds and you built your practice, it's, let's say roughly it's $1 million proposition. You're not going to be able to pick up and move that. You're cementing yourself
Yes.
there. So let's do it right. Let's do our diligence, and let's be proactive through the entire process of how we build this out. And it starts with the grassroots of, physically of now analyzing the space.
And speaking of grassroots, one of the first things I did before I even contacted you is I contacted a professional banker.
Yep.
Just and then they asked me for my personal income statement, asked me for like my tax information, my assets, liabilities. So just like buying a house and getting a
Yep.
mortgage, just to see like how much can I afford.
Absolutely. And what's
So
great
you
about
definitely have to do that
dentistry,
first. Yeah. Go
what's
ahead.
great about dentistry, it's you get 100% financing.
Yes.
That shows the strength of a dental practice as it relates to the business world. The banks do not give other types of businesses 100% financing. But that goes to show, even on the startup side, like you're doing a startup, and more than likely you'll get 100% financing. So even from a risk standpoint, the banks see startups as, completely valuable, and are willing to finance, 1 million, sometimes 1.5 million, sometimes 750. It all varies on location, area, and size. But the banks see value in that, and trust me, the Bank of Canada is very stringent on who they're approving what. The
Yes.
RBCs, the TDs, the CIBCs, they have an underwriting team that are really diligent to make sure the loan that they're giving out will get paid back.
Yes. And so just because banks give 100% financing doesn't mean you can open up a 5,000 square foot
Oh,
startup and expect them to say yes. They are going to look at your past history, your assets, liabilities, all of that. And then they're going to give you, just like buying a house, they'll be like, okay, this is the sum we're going to give you. And then you can work with that.
yeah, like you and
It's,
I sat and we did a business plan, and we kind of,
yes,
we did a loose business plan. I'm not the finance guy, but we did a loose sort of framework of what the business plan will look like, so that when you approach the bank, you have that value. You kind of have this proposal that you're showing them
yes,
that shows your vision. And that's what it starts with. Let's come up with a vision. Let's come up with a concept. Let's come up with an idea, and then start to narrow down the areas of interest. Because we were all over the map at first. We were looking at like Caledon, we were looking at
yes,
Brampton, we were looking
yeah,
at Milton, but slowly and surely we came closer and closer together, and
yeah.
we targeted down to Bolton. We found a
Mhm.
rock star location, and we're close. We might have some updates today, actually.
Okay, good. Can't wait. And just for the audience, like, don't be scared of the word business plan because, like, I never learned how to do it. Jazz and I, we looked it up on ChatGPT,
Yeah.
figured out how to do it. And if I can make up a business plan, so can you. Now, the bank also wants projections. So they asked an accountant to do the projections. So you pay the accountant to do the projections, but you can save a lot of money and do your own business plan, which the bank will approve.
Yeah, and it's, I like taking a more sort of robust approach to the business plan.
Yes.
Let's add your marketing elements into it. Like
Yeah.
use this as your roadmap. Like not just, hey, we want this and we need it to get financing approved. This is your roadmap. Like, let's build the business just like you would with your life plan. You build your
Yes.
1 week plan, your 1 month plan, your 1 year plan, your 5 year, etc. That's sort of the roadmap of the business. Here we are today with no practice. This is what we need to get there. And then in a few years, this is what it's going to turn into. And then when we get to full capacity, we're going to need more space for Sandra. We'll knock on the neighbor's door and say, hey, we're kicking you down. And restaurant relocate, and we need another 1,000 square feet for a couple more operatories.
Speaking of a number of operatories, at first I'm like, okay, let me just start with three operatories. It's all I can manage. It's a huge loan. I have zero patience. But then, you and JJ, who's the president of WeCare, are like, you got to start with five.
Yeah.
So tell
Well,
me about like what is the average size someone should start with?
I recommend doing, anywhere from 1,500 to 2,000 square feet. Sometimes
Okay.
you can do more depending on where you are based on the rents, right? Like if
Okay.
you're looking in downtown Toronto, 1,500 is what you're going to be able to afford. But if you're
Okay.
looking in parts of Niagara, you can do a 3,000 square foot space. It doesn't mean you have to equip everything, but
Hmm.
future-proof your business. And that's what we did with your Sandges. We're like, okay,
Yeah.
today's problem is going to be very different than tomorrow's problem. Let's
Hmm.
prepare for tomorrow's problem, which is, hey, I'm bursting at the seams. I don't have any more space. What do I do? And if your neighbors to the left or your neighbors to the right aren't willing to move, or their leases don't expire and they have term, then you're kind of
Yes.
just sitting on your hands waiting for that opportunity, which may or may not come. So
Hmm.
what we did with yours is we built it in a way where we can equip a certain amount now, but we're
Hmm.
building out all of it and we'll equip it as time goes on, as we become profitable and we grow into it. But we're future-proofing ourselves and we're prepping ourselves for eventual sale. Even though
Yes.
we're starting the business today, look long down the tunnel and look, hey, one day you're going to sell. And let's build a lease agreement that emphasizes or allows you to sell, that has
Yeah.
mechanisms built into it that allow you to transfer the business. Because when you go through an acquisition or a sale, part of the APS, the agreement of purchase and sale, is contingent on transfer of lease. So what we
Yes.
agree to today in the lease is going to have broad implications 30 years down the road when we're ready to
Hmm.
sell. And then we also have to look at what DSOs want. They're the ones paying top dollar, and the market is shifting towards that. You may or may not want to sell to a DSO, but you don't want to prevent yourself from even having the opportunity, which is a
Yes.
3 or 4 chair office. They're not looking at that. They never will.
Okay. And actually, you made a good point about, the lease and thinking about the end in mind, which is at the end, I'm going to be selling this. So I worked with an equipment specialist and dental supply companies, and they created an office design. And right now, there are five operatories, but two of the rooms can be converted into a sixth and seventh operatory. Because I'm also thinking about, the future owner may want to have these extra operatories. And
Absolutely.
yeah, and I was even with the lease to make sure that the lease is long enough. So when I sell it, the next owner has a long enough lease to pay off their bank loan. So I'm thinking about the person who's going to buy my office and their bank loan. Like that has to be in the lease and
It's all
how it
part of
has
it.
to be easy to transfer the lease to someone else. Like you have to, so you and JJ have been great with the lease. So can you tell us a few things of what we should look for in a lease?
Well, number one, we have an in-house legal team, so it's not just JJ and I. We're really focused on sort of the economics of the deal, the financials, looking at the dynamics of the site itself, the area, the location, the demographics, and then our in-house legal team is involved in the nuances of dentistry.
Mhm.
Again, dentistry on a per square footage basis is the most expensive, and that lease needs to be designed to protect you. And we have about 15 major metrics that are involved, and then a number of tertiary metrics that are important for dentistry. For example, how the lease is signed. Is it signed through your corporation or your personal name? Is there indemnifier? I will tell all of you startup doctors, more than likely, 99% of the time, the landlord's going to want some form of a personal guarantee to begin. And that's okay.
Mhm.
You're a new business owner. You're probably still in debt from dental school. You're taking on additional debt to build this practice. They're going to want a guarantee. However, we can build in mechanisms in the lease where as time goes by, that guarantee diminishes. Or at the time of renewal, we can abolish that guarantee and move it to a full corporate guarantee. So that comes down to, how the tenant is designed in the lease. There's use provisions, which is the type of services that you can offer. Can we do Invisalign? Sanj, I'm looking at you because some of these are some of the critical elements that
Yes.
we were going back and forth with the landlord with.
Hmm.
There's an orthodontist in the building, and we
Yes.
still want to be able to offer Invisalign, and we will.
Hmm.
because we
Yeah.
negotiated that, and we're not going to be doing traditional braces, and that's okay.
Hmm.
We're going to be
Hmm.
doing Invisalign and clear aligners. Are you allowed to see children? Are you allowed to offer endo, perio, specialty work, Botox?
Hmm.
Like a lot of doctors don't think of that, but it's a
Yeah.
major procedure now for TMJ services.
Hmm.
But if there's an esthetician or an ENT in the building that prevents you from offering Botox, then you're limited from that service. So you're not a full service dental office that can offer it all. So if there is a patient with TMJ and requires Botox, you're going to have to refer them out.
Hmm.
So I can go on and on with all the various provisions, but for all intents and purposes, there's about 15 or 20, major components, and
Wow.
every element needs to be looked at with the microscope and designed right to help you as a dentist, protect you as a dental practice owner, because it's designed to benefit the landlord. Our mission as WeCare is level the playing field, protect
Yes.
the
And
unprotected.
yeah, you taught me so much about leases. I had no idea. The first time I looked at the lease, I'm like, oh, this looks pretty. The,
Yeah.
the numbers look right. Let's sign
Yep.
it. And you and JJ are like, we're not going to let you sign a
Hold
bad
your
lease.
horses. Hold your horses. Let's red line this, and then you see every line red, 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 red. But the landlord's like, it takes a good conversation with the landlord. For instance,
Hmm.
your landlord was like, "Hey, I don't want to do this. I know dentistry. I'm a big landlord. Yada yada yada. We've done this before. We don't need to do this." And then within a 30-minute conversation with our team, he understood the importance and value that you bring to the table and the longevity and predictability
Hmm.
that you're going to give to a center now versus
Hmm.
the restaurants or the accountants that are
Yeah.
volatile tenants. They pick up and move,
Yes.
law firms, you're built in, you're going to be a part of that community for a very long time.
Okay. So last question, Jazz, is when starting a new dental office, should you buy the building or should you lease?
Okay, so that's sort of a loaded question because it's all very area specific.
Okay.
Right? So if we're speaking to the GTA doctors, in the GTA, if you are a new dentist that's coming off of associateship, typically 4 years, and you're going into your first foray in independent ownership, the likelihood of you buying a building is very low, unless you have Bank of Mom and Dad.
Okay.
To buy a building in the GTA is 2 to 3 million minimum to just buy the real estate. And then you also have to build out the practice. So on average, you're looking at a $5+ million proposition. And typically, the buildings that are affordable have low visibility, don't have parking, are off in a corner. Most doctors are in a commercial lease because there's traffic flow. There's anchor
Hmm.
tenancy, there's grocery store, a bank, that Service Ontario that is driving
Yes.
traffic to the center
Mhm.
that gives you natural visibility. You're providing visibility to their businesses as well.
Yeah, that's true.
Whereas owning a building, look, I love real estate. I would say own the dirt every single day. That's something me and JP say all the time, but it's just what's financially viable. And as a
Yes.
startup, my recommendation is find a strong location, typically it'll be a lease, negotiate a
Mhm.
good deal, and then as you grow and scale, then you'll have your practice to finance your building acquisition. And then you build your sort of master practice and your what's the word for it? Your premier office in that
Yes.
location. And then you have your satellite offices that are supporting that.
Yeah. And I like what JJ said. He said your dental office is a separate financial transaction than the real estate. So it might be, great financially for a dental office, but might not be great financially for the real estate. So
Absolutely.
unless you have both going in your favor, then,
And that's where JJ's
don't buy the
private
property.
equity, yeah, that's where his
Yeah.
private equity mind rolls. It's, you know, from an investment standpoint, is that the
Yes.
ideal investment for your return on investment? Are
Hmm.
there better opportunities in buying, multi-use properties, multiplexes, with the things that are going on with CMCH and, our ability to buy, multiplexes, 14, 15 unit apartments. Those are sort of better real estate opportunities that you'll see greater appreciation of the asset versus you locking yourself into this practice and property. And then you also have to be mindful when you sell, either you're going to remain as a landlord or you're going to sell practice and property, which are joint at the hips now, and you'll lose
Yeah.
value on one or the other. You won't get full value in
Ah,
practice or your building. You'll devalue something to meet the deal and make it happen.
okay. So that was fantastic. I can't believe you summarized so much in a half an hour. But to summarize, okay, the audience, if you're starting up your own practice, you have to work with advisors like WeCare Practice Advisors. Because if I didn't, I would have found a location that may not have been ideal. I would have signed the lease before, like the heavy negotiations that you and JJ and your legal team have done. I would have probably picked a location that didn't even have the right amount of electricity and, water drainage that I needed. So, and you have connected me to so many other people to help me with my startup. Like without you and JJ, like my dream wouldn't have even started.
And
I
you
would
know
have
what?
given up from the beginning thinking, I
It's
don't even know
it's
where to
been a
start.
lot of fun working through this process and kind of building your dream and your vision into reality. And it was great when we were in Dallas for the Dental Success Summit. You know,
Yeah.
we really saw sort of the creme de la creme of doctors and what they're doing and how they're building and growing and scaling
Hmm.
and taking best practices and principles. Um, for any startup, have the right advisors around you.
Hmm.
A lot of people say, hey, my friend's a realtor, they're brokers. Like I'm a licensed broker myself, but I specialize in dentistry. And
Yes.
there's elements of dentistry that are very different than any other commercial tenancy. So even if you're working with your friend who's a broker, have someone who understands dentistry supporting you on the back end. Because there's elements that will get overlooked and they'll cost you more in the future or in trouble or in time.
Yeah, good advice. Because if you don't realize that you can't even drill into the floor of the unit that you just purchased or leased, then you're going to have to spend hundreds of thousands of dollars just to,
Raise the floor.
raise the floor so you
Raise
can
the
put
floor.
dental chairs in.
Raise the floor. It's like $200,000 for
Oh
2,000
God.
square foot space to raise the floors. That's before any piping has been dropped into the space. Just simply raising it up, 200K. So it's all part of the due diligence, and it comes with working with experts. And
Yeah.
I'm not just saying that because that's what I do, but it's with any type of business you're in. You want to work with individuals that are great at their craft and specialize in their craft. Not a generalist, someone who's very, focused in this element of their business, and that will save you time, energy, and money.
Yeah. So thank you, Jazz, for helping me with my dream
No
practice. I
problem.
can't wait for it to open next year.
I
And
strategically wore a jacket that brings the ambiance and elements of your practice. So
yeah, my practice is going to be called Watermelon Dental. Jazz has helped me with some of the branding and the design of my new office, and now he's wearing the watermelon pink color. So thank
Team
you.
Watermelon, let's go.
So Jazz, how can the audience contact you?
Well, first and foremost, you can find us on our website,
Okay.
drwecare, so drwecare.com. We're really focused and we love spending a lot of time on social media. So you can follow our journey on Instagram. That will probably be the best way to just connect with us. And feel free to shoot us a message, a DM, share content, enjoy our content. We love engaging with our clients and seeing their journey and them sharing their journey with future clients or just anyone in the dental community about their experience. But also we've built relationships that we turn into friends with our clients. It turns into friends or family. It's not just, you're a client. It's beyond that. So our social media and Instagram is at dr.wecare. So that's at doctor.wecare. Follow us, hit like. That's probably
Yeah,
the best
like
way.
it.
You can find us on LinkedIn, YouTube, all that fun stuff as well.
Yeah, so for those of you who are dreaming of starting your own practice, please contact Jazz and JJ at Dr. We Care on Instagram and on their website. Thank you, my friend. Thanks for becoming my friend throughout this whole process.
And I look forward to it and I look forward to the journey continuing.
Okay, thank you everyone for joining us. So grateful to all of you. Stay tuned for our next episode. Thank you for listening to the New Dentist Study Club podcast. Listen to us on Spotify, watch us on YouTube, share and subscribe, and follow us on Instagram at New Dentist Study Club.